The U.S. has reached another grim milestone. As of Monday, there have been more than 675,000 deaths associated with the coronavirus, more than those estimated to have died of influenza during the 1918 pandemic. Roughly a year and a half into the COVID-19 pandemic, how long do Americans think it will last? We have new Hill-HarrisX data on that question. Let's take a look.
I look forward to working together to beat this pandemic and keep our economy growing and growing strong.
The poll found more voters said the pandemic will last a few years at 23%. Another 20% said it will last another 7 to 12 months, while 19% said never. Just 8% said the pandemic is already over. Republican voters were more likely to say either that the pandemic is already over or that it will never be over, while Democrats said within 7 to 12 months. Alyssa, what's your read on this?
Well, it's just kind of bizarre speculation that I think we're all wondering when it's going to be over. I don't think the scientists necessarily know. I don't think the World Health Organization necessarily knows. But the best way, I think the best, most scientific way we could kind of estimate when it would be over is when our country's able to reach the magical 85 to 90% threshold of people vaccinated. That's when we're going to be able to ward off variants and get to a place where we're hopefully seeing this as maybe something that you have small breakout cases, but it's not substantial case positivity across the entire country. So that would be, I would guess, would be the answer to the question, is whenever we're able to get the majority of the country vaccinated.
And I think obviously really nobody knows, but it is kind of, I think, revealing about people's posture or psychology toward the pandemic to ask this question. So I'm curious, how would you have answered this if somebody from Hill-HarrisX calls you up and says, when will the pandemic, and other than being like, I have no idea, what are you talking about? You tell me, but right. What would you say if, in your mind, when you think about it, what are you guessing as the quote unquote end of the pandemic, or will it never end?
I hate to say it, I think it probably another year or two, but I think some variation of it will be with us forever. And I think if you've spent time in Asia, they've had so many different versions of SARS-like illnesses that people still wear masks generally. They're a lot more cautious than most Americans were. I think aspects of COVID we could expect to be with us, or the response to COVID will be with us for a very long time. I think the virus probably another year or two. Your thoughts?
So yeah, so I guess you'd be in with this 21% of Republicans who are saying, 13 to 24 months. I'm torn between never ending, and I thought it was interesting that Republicans split between it's already over and never ending, because I can see how, if that's how you feel, that influences how you respond to it. I'm torn between it never ending and the next few years, and also another category of in a few years we'll be into the next pandemic. It's just going to be another roundhouse to the face.
The one thing about never ending is, it's unsustainable to think that every year and a half we would have, or in the next year and a half we'd have another 675,000 people die. That's the part that the number, that record historic number of deaths, is what I think needs to make us wake up and say, we have to try to end this as proactively as we can, getting back to the point of vaccination. But the U.S. is expected to lift air travel restrictions for foreign nationals who are fully vaccinated, with the Biden administration aiming for early November for foreign travel to resume for the first time in more than a year. Foreign nationals must show proof of vaccination and proof of a negative COVID test taken 3 days prior to boarding an airplane. Fox News correspondent Peter Doocy questioned White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki about proof of vaccination for those entering the country. Let's take a look.
to our national security team and see what that process would look like.
A question about what's going on at the border. Is somebody asking the foreign nationals who are walking into Del Rio, Texas and setting up camps on this side of the border for proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test?
Well, first of all, I can readdress for you or re-talk you through what steps we take.
That is the policy for people who fly into the country. So if somebody walks into the country right across the river, does somebody ask them to see their vaccination card?
Well, let me explain to you again, Peter, how our process works. As individuals come across the border, and they are both assessed for whether they have any symptoms. If they have symptoms, the intention is for them to be quarantined.
Ryan, your thoughts?
I mean, idiotic question from Peter Doocy that we're all dumber for having listened to. Okay, if a European, doesn't want to show proof of vaccination to get into the United States, yes, okay, fine. Then they're free to fly to Mexico City and then walk to the border and then cross the river and then go through the procedure that Psaki laid out, which is we're trying to test everybody coming into the country, we're trying to vaccinate people coming into the country. Well, they're completely different things.
Peter, that's the problem, though, is they're not trying to do that. She said they're screening for symptoms. We have asymptomatic cases all over the country. When you have 200,000 border crossings a month, that we're not actively trying to either vaccinate or get negative tests.
We should be.
And that's where you and I agree. But
yeah.
I mean, I get it. Peter is snarky, but I actually thought it was a great question. So we're going to turn away, whoever is relative from Europe because they had a failed test, even though they might be vaccinated. But we're just have a wide open border where people are coming in potentially spreading the virus.
Yes. So we should be. I think asking for proof of vaccination is a little bit ridiculous, but fine to ask, and then jab them, test them.
Yeah, well,
okay. Thanks, Peter. Good suggestion.
We have the vaccination capacity. We could be vaccinating folks at the border.
Yes, absolutely, since the rest of America doesn't want it. And meanwhile, taking until November to open this up is also absurd. I mean, it could be tomorrow. But anyway, thank you for watching What America's Thinking, and we will see you next time.